everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. One of the most common things people said to defend Meghan Markle's completely inappropriate, wildly outlandishly inappropriate choices of outfits was that it was hot. It was so hot that she needed to wear strapless, spaghetti strap, and sleeveless garments every day. Impossible to wear more clothing due to the heat. False. That is absolute nonsense. The temperatures ranged from the high 80s to the 90s on most of the days, which isn't extreme. And regardless of that, as you can see, the other people in the pictures, even Prince Harry, who is acclimated to the same sorts of temperatures as Meghan Markle, used to the same types of weather as Meghan Markle at this point, was able to wear more clothing. The flowier the dresses, the flowier the skirts, the cooler you will be, even if they are longer. And having some degree of sleeve gives you a shield from the sun exposure. It tends to be a lot more comfortable in that sort of a weather and climate. So it doesn't work. That excuse does not fly. Also, if it was that hot, if she was that hot, don't you think she would be wearing more updos? A lot of the days she had her hair more down, which you tend to avoid if you're really that hot. Speaking of hairstyles though, I've said it before, but this is the haircut that Meghan Markle should have. She should get this haircut. The widest point of her face is around her jaw, maybe like lower cheek area, and she has a rather prominent chin. So she falls somewhere between a square sort of a shaped face, similar to a diamond face shape. And so something like this with just like a collarbone or slightly below the collarbone, like long bob, where it's just kind of blunt cut and just sleek, would look so nice. It would be so much more flattering for her. It would look more polished. It would be easier for her to style, and it would avoid these sorts of overwhelming, messy looks that she has some of the time. A lot of the gossip or speculation around this trip ended up focused on the fact that Harry looked tragically upset. He looked so unhappy by the time this trip came to a close. At some point between day 2 and 3, sources claim Harry and Meghan had a humongous argument. You can really see the tension coming through on day 3. They're just completely over it at this point. At least Prince Harry is. He looks so cranky and pouty. Perhaps he doesn't like traveling, or perhaps they both dislike traveling and tours. Maybe Meghan doesn't like it and then makes it miserable for Harry because she's not enjoying the trip. Who knows? Either way, they seemed happier on day 1, and then day 2 things began to look a little bit more tense, and by day 3 it was clear Prince Harry was unhappy. Many people have come to their defense and said maybe it was just a bad picture. They point to pictures like this of them holding hands and say, see, they can't be that mad. But to that I say, think about this. Actually put yourself there. This is a couple. They're together all the time. They know each other pretty well, presumably. So, for example, if Meghan Markle was fixated on holding hands, and she is pretty fixated on holding hands, it's a pattern, it's well known and established that it's sort of her thing to always be holding hands. She initiates it and insists on it frequently. Remember this? He didn't want to hold hands, but she did, and she got her way. So he likely knows that it's much easier to just hold the hands than to not. Because the couple of times that he didn't or pulled his hand away, it hit the headlines and she was likely very upset. And I can relate to how uncool it would feel to have something like that in the headlines. But I also cannot ignore the fact that she simply shouldn't be trying to cling on to him at all times. It's simply not the setting for it. But the point is, whether they were fighting or not, or upset or not, if she reached for his hand, he really didn't have any choice but to go ahead and hold hands. He certainly didn't look happy about it. And this wasn't just one bad picture. Almost all the pictures that have come out since the trip that were not curated and approved by Meghan Markle to be released through People magazine, he looks totally unhappy. It's pure speculation here, but some rumors claimed that they were tipped off that the Archewell delinquency issue would be becoming public upon their return. And despite any corrections that they may have issued since then, the damage was done. So they didn't quite salvage that problematic story, and it would be reasonable to think that that created a bit of bad vibes. On the other hand, some sources claimed that Prince Harry was annoyed at Meghan Markle's wardrobe choices, that she had only brought spaghetti strap and sleeveless style dresses, and that he understandably was upset that she didn't have something more appropriate. I'm not fully sure about this theory. I could see it happening, but also at the same time, it might be giving Harry a little too much credit. Whether or not they were fighting is really secondary. The main problem is that we knew that they had had an argument, that it was clear that Harry was not into it. The fact that he allowed so much of this to be seen on his face was a mistake. Whether they're there in a private capacity or not, they chose to publicize this trip. And so to publicize it when you're not on your best behavior, so to speak, and you're not following any sort of a protocol or guideline or have a shared goal for the trip, it creates messy PR that you really want to avoid if you're Harry and Meghan or somebody in the public eye. The fact that the public got such different impressions after the trip than they had initially set out to create for the trip, and on top of it behaved in manners like this, is creating a real shit show sort of a vibe. There's been a lot of press speculation that Prince Harry is Meghan's spare and is very unhappy about it. It's clear that he was not thrilled on day 3. Could it be that this daughter naming ceremony, perhaps that was a surprise to Prince Harry? Initially was told it would be a private thing, but then Meghan weaseled some press in. Given that Harry would have been one of the only people with access to her actual ancestry test results, a lot of speculation is that perhaps he knows this has been exaggerated and absolutely ridiculous exercise. What I think might be more likely is that Meghan Markle wrote Prince Harry a speech that he did not want to give. The whole in-laws line sounds like something Meghan would cook up. And this is just the sort of thing he claimed to hate having to do, to deliver pre-written speeches that were not his own words and not his true feelings, that it was disingenuous. And he is now having to do it all the time because Meghan Markle writes his speeches and then makes him give them. I honestly used to feel really badly for Harry because the manipulation on display is simply astronomical, and it's very difficult to, when you know what it looks like and feels like, to not feel some degree of understanding to what he's going through. But at the same time, he's done so many things that are toxic all by himself and has always had a bit of a petulant, sort of snooty side to him that really comes out at times like these. So it's become much more difficult to feel bad or empathize with the level of emotional and mental manipulation that's very clearly present within their relationship, given how toxic he has proven to be. Honestly, he is just as equally invested in this sort of selfish, twisted emulation of his mother via the Meg as she is. He is equally as spiteful towards his family as the Meg is. He is equally as unaware and out of touch as she. And together they seem to bring out the worst in each other. While the pattern of evidence really lends itself towards the theory that Meghan causes arguments before public engagements, wherein he is then forced to go along with the image she wants to project, whether he's happy about it or not, it would be negligent to think that he does not play a role in this stuff too. He has always had a reputation of being hot-headed. As soon as something doesn't go his way, or he's disappointed or embarrassed by something through his family or the media, and he's been known to issue knee-jerk decisions, unleashing a furious statement here and there, or initiating a petty endeavor like a leaked photo. So it's clear that he is also contributing a great deal to these sorts of dynamics. I do love the comments that remind people of a previous version of the Meg that she wanted us to believe. She tried to sell herself initially as super down-to-earth and carefree, this sort of grounded, California, sweet type lady who wore ripped jeans and was barefoot when she first met the Prince and Princess of Wales. Where is that lady? Why is the Meg always looking so not down-to-earth and grounded? Why is she overdressing for everything? Because that is the exact opposite of that sort of a aesthetic or vibe. But this reminds me of the pattern that we have seen with Meghan over the years. This sort of absence of a strong sense of self, and in its place, a very strong sense of self-importance. We see a frivolous sort of identity taking shape, where she changes based on what she's trying to sell at that given time, adopting different personas or vibes, changing style, aesthetic, and signals based on, for example, who somebody's dating or who they're trying to impress or what image they're trying to sell at any given moment. Seen the Meg rotate through this same sort of pattern that people high in narcissism tend to. Going from this sort of carefree, down-to-earth, yoga master faux vegan, who gave the impression that she'd be a great fit for Prince Harry, who wanted to spend a lot of time traveling through the Commonwealth countries. And this was up until the engagement interview. And then the next version of Meg came about, which was very feminism-oriented and going out to revolutionize the monarchy with her briefcases. And then came the Diana 2.0 victim narrative. Everything was terrible. She was so wounded and treated so unfairly and trapped. Lots of floor crying. Next, it was the powerful boss image, with the Meg looking big and severe in all her pictures, doing lots of I'm strong and moving on interviews and launching archetypes and other projects and interviews. When that didn't stick, she switched again. What other versions of the Meg have we seen? They're not all subtle, natural evolutions of like interest or style or somebody just growing and changing throughout the years. This is a very intentional, this is my new image sort of a vibe, because she makes all sorts of announcements and pronouncements about who she is now. Kind of reminds me of the poorly received projects of J.Lo lately and this sort of fall of J.Lo's image because she's so fixated on announcing who she is now, sort of a thing. It never goes over well. Now, the Nigeria trip hasn't just had a lot of brutal reactions from the public and the press alike. It's also had some of the worst cringe we've ever seen. Let's take a look at some of these clips. When Prince Harry went to visit some wounded servicemen, he had this major cringe moment.
You get that? Your last year, how's it working for you? Good? Have you given it a name? Weird. Give it a name. Strong. You're getting used to it? You're getting used to it.
So he suggests the man should name his prosthetic leg. This man is likely still grieving what he's been through. This is horribly insensitive. Also, he seems like not interested in having cameras shoved in his face, and Harry's standing there selfishly bringing cameras along. It's just horrible. I feel so badly for this guy. I also feel bad for this child who was forced to give Meghan Markle flowers and then smile for the camera. It's been said by many, but when children like you and want to give you flowers, it is very obvious. We've seen it time and time again with Catherine, the Princess of Wales. She has such a natural level of engagement with children and a warmth with them, and they're so comfortable with her. And it's just not the same here with the Meg. She should not have engaged in this photo op at all, because it just makes it look like this child is being forced into something she does not want to do. She doesn't look comfortable with Meghan trying to hug her or get her face close to hers. It's just strange. This was not a good look. One of the absolute worst clips from the trip was this one. And this is one of those moments where I would otherwise feel a little bit bad for Harry. He just wanted a little bit of room, and Meghan just wouldn't move out of his way and sort of broadens out her elbows to block Harry from moving forward to be part of this picture. It's so awkward and strange. I would feel bad for Harry if he didn't behave like such a brat all the time. But he's clearly very disappointed. Perhaps this was where he began to get angry with her over this trip, with her demanding to take center stage, even at something like this. This was one of the more Invictus-focused events. This was supposed to be a luncheon organized by the man who invited them for Invictus with military leaders and their families. So it would have made more sense for Harry to be more center of attention, so to speak, for this particular event rather than Meghan. But she will not allow such a thing. Beyond the cringy speeches, we also had moments like this, where Meghan Markle just was way more worried about getting pictures than the people actually talking to her. And in this instance, Harry even tries to save the situation. This reminds me very much of this time at Invictus when Harry was trying to talk with somebody and wanted to be helpful to cleaning up the area, and Meghan Markle was dragging him away despite that. But in this situation, he actually goes ahead and does what he knows is right, leaving her to awkwardly save face. It's safe to say, despite the body language they try to project of being so connected via hand-holding all the time, this couple isn't exactly in sync and on the same page as we see with, for example, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and Prince William. I only use them as an example because we've seen them in similar styles of situations where they're at an event together, visiting maybe a charity or an organization as guests, and are interacting with people of the public and each other at the same time. We see Catherine and William interact with each other and have jokes with each other and make each other laugh without creating a bubble and separating themselves from the group by hand-holding or sending other signals. We also don't ever see them looking like they just had some sort of big, huge fight, and we don't see them dragging each other away from whatever event is happening. What was your peak cringe from the Nigeria trip? I would have to say Meghan's speech and her outfits might be some of the worst cringe moments she's had, but what do you think? Please leave it in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video, and be sure to subscribe so you do not miss upcoming videos. I hope you have a happy day, everybody. I'll see you next time. Bye!